Today on Rebel Then King, I'm afraid that I need to ask for your help even more and that things have gotten even worse. Because a lot of you suggested Thaumaturge, and now I really want to do that as my support marshal. Welcome, adventurers. Okay, so this is a follow-up video to my previous video about building out a support marshal for my next campaign. There were a ton of super helpful comments on that. So thank you to Zedrinbot, who suggested the duelist archetype, which is another way to pick up the quick draw feat, which was super important for my throne builds that I wanted to do. I had been sticking to swashbuckler and ranger because they have that ability built in as a feat, a class feat, but this is a great suggestion as well. Also to the Illuvator and Weist, who mentioned the Thrower's Bandolier. I didn't go into it, but yes, that is a critical piece of equipment for all of my throne builds, and I am making sure to stick to one-handed, light bulk thrown weapons in order to use that Thrower's Bandolier. And then the subject of this video, AmpStack22, who said, with the most upvoted comment, Thaumaturge is also the support marshal. Before I get into Thaumaturge, though, just a quick acknowledgement of some other classes and other thoughts that I have. Cyprime Productions and Kenneth Lambert also mentioned the Rogue and their teamwork abilities. And yes, this is a great idea. However, I don't want to do that because in my current campaign, there is a player playing as a pretty support role rogue, and that player is continuing into the next campaign, so it'd feel a little bit like, hey, remember your character? I'm playing as your character now. So I'm not going to do rogue for that reason. And then there were also a few other classes that mentioned that for the same reason are a little bit too close to characters that I've played or that a character in my current campaign is playing. Anyway, back to Thaumaturge. So why did I initially not go Thaumaturge? Well, it felt a little too close, and still maybe does, to my current character, who is a warrior muse bard. That character is a +4 charisma, +3 strength, and most of my Thaumaturge builds here are going to be the same. But I did think, if I'm with my other, my ranger build, for example, that did not have a +4 strength or dex. It was +3 wisdom, +3 strength, +3 dex. And I thought, if I'm not going to be a full +4 strength or dex marshal, why not be an alternate ability score marshal like the Thaumaturge? I'm not getting that full accuracy that I would out of a ranger or a swashbuckler if I'm not leaning into full +4. So go with a class that is designed with that in mind. And also, let me play my second favorite class, or third favorite, I can't forget. I'll have to go look at my last ranking video. The first build is continuing with my throne weapon theme. This is a Cobold Raider Thaumaturge. I went with the Regalia implement for this one, and we'll talk about that in a second. Cobold because they're charisma, their dex, and they're fun. Raider because it's a good background that gives me intimidating glare. Intimidating glare is, if you can't tell, this is going to be very crucial for this character who's going to do a lot of supporting through demoralizing. I have a full +4 charisma, a +3 dex, and a +2 strength, and I will be using thrown weapons. In this case, I went with javelins, even though I could use the chakram here, but it just feels more like what I envision a kobold using, so I'm going to go with that. The strength, remember, does get added to the damage when you are using a thrown ranged attack, so that's why I'm leaning to that. So overall, this is going to be like a d6 +2, plus at least 2 from the empowerment, and then maybe more from exploit vulnerability, so quite decent ranged damage. Now, let's talk about the Regalia here, the implement. Kind of a long initiate benefit here, but you gain a +1 circumstance bonus to deception, diplomacy, and intimidation checks. Remember, I've got intimidating glare, I have a +4 charisma, and now I have a +1 to those intimidation checks, effectively a +8, and never a penalty for not speaking the same language. Also, in the support realm, allies who can see you can use Follow the Expert to follow you, even if you're only trained in a skill and not expert. Follow the Expert is +1. When you're holding your regalia, you gain an inspiring aura that stokes the courage of you and your allies in a 15-foot emanation who can see you, granting them a +1 status bonus to saving throws against fear. Also, at the end of your turn, the same time you would reduce your frightened value by 1, you reduce frightened value of all allies within your inspiring aura by 1. So, this is a imbue your enemies with fear and counteract fear on your allies build. The full charisma absolutely helps here to lean into that demoralizing, and I think that I've got a pretty decent set of attacks. As far as some of the other abilities here, Divine Disharmony, this also benefits from the intimidation stack that I have going on. From your collection of religious trinkets, you pull out opposing divine objects, blah, 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 and combine them in a display that causes discordant clashes of divine energy that are especially distracting to the faithful. Roll your choice of deception or intimidation check, and that will have a bonus for my regalia, for my implement, against the will DC of a creature you can see within 60 feet, with the following results. If the creature, blah, blah, blah. So on a success, the creature is flat-footed against your attacks until the end of your next, or your current turn, and critical success is on the end of your next turn. So this is a good way to use that intimidation to set someone up to be flat-footed. I could, in theory, use Divine Disharmony to make someone flat-footed to me, demoralize them, making them frightened, lowering their armor class even more, and then hit them with one of my javelins. So there is my Throne Thaumaturge build. It works. It hits that throne. Oh, and then, of course, throne. As I level up, of course, I'm going to take Duelist Dedication at level 2 to give me access to Quick Draw. So, again, thank you to ZedrinBot who suggested that. This meets the requirements of, being thrown, though I will say I'm actually the least excited about this Thaumaturge as I am, compared to the other two. Let's get into the other two. Now I am onto the only character that I've actually named, because this is a quite old build for me. This is Klob Clang. He is an interrupting Goblin Thaumaturge. He is annoying as any character could possibly be. Goblins also make great Thaumaturges because they have that charisma boost. And here I have a +4 charisma, +3 strength, a little bit of dex, a little bit of constitution. The background is snubbed out stoolie, which honestly I might change at some point. I'm not necessarily sold on that. Heritage, Unbreakable Goblin, let's be tough. Ancestry feat, Goblin Song. Class feat, Divine Disharmony, which we looked at last time. Implement, Bell. These are 3 audio-based annoying things that you can do to disrupt your enemies. That's what this character is all about. Let's take a look at the Bell implement. You gain a reaction, Ring Bell. The target of your exploit vulnerability makes a strike or cast a spell that would affect you or one of your allies. And the triggering creature must be within 30 feet, so good range on this one. You have your choice of Distracting Cacophony. This is when the trigger is a spell. You create a musical crash of sonic energy that assails the target and breaks its concentration. The target must succeed at a fortitude save against your class DC, blah, 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 or become stupefied 1 until the end of your next turn, stupefied 2 on critical failure. The other option here, when the target is a strike, the target must succeed at a will save against your class DC or become your choice of enfeebled 1 or clumsy 1 until the end of your next turn, or enfeebled 2 or clumsy 2 on a critical failure. So this is a good defensive option. It is possible that an enemy makes a strike, you make it enfeebled 1, it's using its strength for its attack roll, and it misses due to that. And even if it hits, presumably its strength is going to damage, and it is going to take some of the points of damage away. Very fun. And then I won't go through Divine Disharmony again because we just covered that, but it's another way to debuff an enemy. It makes them off guard to your attacks. And then Goblin Song. You sing annoying goblin songs, distracting your foes with silly and repetitive lyrics. You attempt a performance check. So it's good to be a charisma-based character for this. Blah, 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 usual traits, performance, blah, blah, blah. On its success, the target takes a -1 status penalty to perception checks and will saves for 1 round. So this could be something you could pair with a caster who would target will saves. Great way for a marshal to aid and debuff your casting characters. But it's also good for exploration, where you could, go out and just be annoying, sing your little song while someone sneaks behind to, uncover some information, something like that. As far as the weapon here, I went with the dog slicer because you're a goblin. It is a one-handed weapon, which you need so that you can have your bell in the other hand. This is a much tougher character than the last one, with a full 19 hit points due to Unbreakable Goblin and that little boost in charisma. This is going to be that frontliner. I went with, some talisman-based stuff as I leveled up, incredible initiative. I don't really have that much of a plan for this, to be perfectly honest. It was more about the early phase of this build. But I'm saving the best for last with, I think, one of the best characters I've ever created. And now on to what I think is one of my best characters, a tough little Tanuki Thaumaturge. It is a Tanuki, wandering preacher background, really pilgrim. I'll get into that in a minute. It's Thaumaturge, of course. Heritage is Courageous Tanuki. And the implement, we're going to jump to that, is the Amulet. With the Amulet, you gain the reaction Amulet's Abeyance. The trigger of your exploit vulnerability would damage you or an ally within 15 feet. And of course, you are holding your amulet. In order to use this, you forcefully present your amulet to turn away harm. You or a target ally within 15 feet gain resistance to all damage, all triggering damage. The resistance is equal to 2 plus half your level. So, this is kind of a little champion build here. As far as the weapons here, I went with a shield and a shield boss. I'm kind of going all about defense here. I'm not using shield block though, because I have the amulet that's going to use my reaction. I don't want to use the shield block for my reaction, but I like the idea of a shield in one hand and your protective amulet in the other. The ability scores for this, here I am with a 3-3-3 split. I've got a +3 charisma, a +3 con, and a +3 strength. +3 con, that is a lot. That is how I have 21 hit points. I have a lot of level up notes on this one. Just a lot of thoughts I've kind of gone through. So starting with the armor class in the defenses of this one, you'll notice I only have a 17 AC, not a full 18. And that's because I don't have access to heavy armor and I don't have any dexterity right now. If I put a point into dexterity, my armor class would go up by 1 because I'm wearing breastplate right now, medium armor. But at level 2, I'm going to get the Sentinel dedication and gain access to heavy armor. I will then put myself in heavy armor and I will now have a max AC. And as I continue to level up, I'm going to keep going on this toughness and armor-based builds. I actually like this as a backstory of someone who is learning their skills as they go along, so they're going to get better at using armor. As far as some of the other ability scores go, you might think, well, why not a +4 charisma? You're a charisma-based class. And it's kind of because it's not necessary. Exploit vulnerability is valuable even on a failure. And I actually think it still is even on a critical failure with the amulet, because I don't think the amulet requires you to succeed at your exploit vulnerability check. It just says the target of your exploit vulnerability. So I can still use my reaction even after I've critically failed on exploit vulnerability, I think. But then again, even if you fail, you still get bonus damage from that. So is having an extra +1 to have a full +4 charisma really worth it? I think not, especially because I do have other performance and face skills here, deception, diplomacy, intimidation, but it's not the intimidation-based build where I really want to maximize my intimidation and charisma-based skills. That's not what I'm all about here. I'm about damage with that +3 strength, toughness with that constitution. Strength, I should also mention, is going to help at level 5 when I can put more points into strength and get even heavier armor that has a +4 strength requirement rather than the +3. So I'm incrementing my armor abilities as I go along. As far as some of the other notes here, the background. I want that Pilgrim's Token. This allows you to go first in initiative. That is crucial for a character who is using a reaction that requires me to take an action first. Remember, I need to exploit vulnerability before I can use that reaction, so I want to go first in initiative. Now, I wanted to go with the Pilgrim background to get the Pilgrim's Token, but that didn't have the ability score boosts that I wanted, so I went with Wandering Preacher instead. Not really the flavor of what I'm going for here, but that's okay. As I level up, Sentinel, Dedication, I was thinking No Cause for Alarm, because that is kind of this, goes along with this courageous Tanuki heritage, but I decided, maybe going with Root Magic instead, because I do have Root to Life as my class feat at level 1, so adding a little bit more protection and sort of pseudo healing in here. And then Esoteric Warden. When you succeed at your check to exploit vulnerability, you gain a +1 status bonus to your AC against creatures and +1 status bonus to next saving throw. If you critically succeed, these are +2 instead. So even more tanking, protection, staying in the front line and just turning away all attacks that come my way. Also probably going with toughness, because why not? And then maybe Talisman Esoterica as I level up. And then I forget who mentioned this, but someone mentioned the Campfire Chronicle Dedication as well. And I think this is going to work out great for this character. With Offer Story, you share a story of your travels with a creature within 30 feet. You gain a +1 status bonus to AC in will saves until the end of your next turn. On their next turn, the creature you shared a story with can take a single action, which has the auditory, concentrate, linguistic, and mental traits, to respond with their own story to gain the same benefits until the end of the following turn. More ways to boost AC. That is what this character is all about. And then at level 5, I really like this Ancestry feat, Hasty Celebration. You critically succeed at an attack roll. That's the trigger for it. Or an enemy critically succeeds a saving throw. You get caught up in the moment and begin to party, cheering your allies on. You grant all allies within 60 feet a +2 circumstance bonus to attack rolls and damage until the end of your next turn. Unfortunately, while you sing and dance, you aren't keeping an eye on your surroundings like you should, making you off guard to enemies. So this is a fun kind of counterpoint that actually decreases your armor class in favor of majorly boosting your allies' offense for a round. But going back to the fact that I have this courageous Tanuki background, or heritage, which if you look at it is kind of tongue-in-cheek. It allows you to take a normal action while fleeing, but then flee extra quick. And then also gives you a tactical retreat reaction. So the backstory of this character is someone who's at their core actually not that courageous and not that much of a warrior, but is learning to do so as they level up. So I really like that class feat. Even though it is counter to max AC all the time, it's fun to have something that goes a little bit contrary to it. Well, that is all, and thank you again, sincerely, adventurers, for all of the comments on my last video. You gave me a lot of great ideas, so I definitely want to hear more about these possible builds, especially if I'm doing something wrong, if I have a bonus that doesn't actually stack or something like that. Those are always the sad moments, but it's important to get that out of the way. Let me know about other items or heritages or backgrounds or class feats or something that I am missing, though try not to give me too many ideas because eventually I do have to settle on just one character.